Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Bolt Action Reloading. In this week's episode, we're going to be testing out these new Speer 150 grain gold dots with Hodgdon H4350 in 30-06. Stick around. Welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here and you'd like to see how I and the rest of the community here make our group smaller, start now by subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell icon. That way you get notified when I post next week's video and you won't miss anything. Guys, in today's video, we're going to be starting with another powder here in 30-06, H4350. Out of all the powders that we had in stock for 30-06, we're starting off with two of our temperature stabilized powders, Hodgdon Varget and Hodgdon H4350. Both of these are extreme powders, which means they're not as sensitive to temperature. They are still going to show some temperature sensitivity, but it should be significantly less than a ball powder. Why that's important is because we're working up a hunting load, which takes us right into our test platform for today. The platform for which we're reloading for today is a Tikka M695, chambered in 30-06. This has a 22.5-inch barrel, and our velocity numbers for quick load estimates will be adjusted for that. We've actually verified this data at a couple different sources. Pretty much all of them agreed where we're going to hit pressure, and so quick load is telling us we're going to hit pressure today right at 62.0 grains, which is going to estimate our velocity at 2974. This is going to be a Saturday style test of which we shoot 10 different charges. Ordinarily we do 0.2 of a grain, but 30-06 being a slightly larger volume cartridge, we actually bumped that up to 0.3 grain increments for today. That may prove to be more difficult. It certainly makes the graph a little bit hard to look at, but we haven't shot this combination either, and we wanted to back down a little bit further and see that pressure as we went up for today's charges. Our projectile today is this 150 grain gold dot by Speer. One of the reasons why I was interested in doing this is new. I've seen a couple videos on this projectile already, and it does look like it has some reasonable performance. It certainly has some great reviews on Midway, and one of the advantages of projectiles, if you just want to try it out, you'd only have to get 50 of them at a time, and very reasonably priced. I think this was somewhere around $13 or $14 from Midway. I did end up picking a couple of them up, just to make sure I had enough to do some load development. But if you just wanted to shoot 50 to see how they shot in your rifle, certainly no reason not to give them a try, especially at the price point and as few as you have to buy to give them a try. Let's get right into our load details for today. Our projectile for today is the Speer Gold Dot. Part number is 308150GDB. This, like I said, is the 150 grain gold dot and 30 caliber bullet. The brass which we're using is brand new Nosler brass. We are fire forming during today's testing, which is not necessarily ideal, but this is at least going to give us a starting place to look for pressure. We should still be getting a reasonable fire form of the brass and looking for pressure as we go up. Our primer for today's test is the CCI BR2. We're really looking to get a high quality load if we can. We're going right to the Cadillac of primers. The CCI BR2 is one of the more expensive primers you can get. But if it gives us the best consistency is definitely what we're looking for in our hunting load. So our load day today, like I said, our max we calculated was at 62.3 grains. Backing down for 10 loads, our starting charge ends up being 59.6 grains, but going up in 0.3 of grain increments, maxing out at 62.3 grains. Our starting velocity was going to estimate somewhere in the ballpark of 2857 feet per second, and again, maxing out somewhere around 2984 feet per second. I would take you guys out to the range, and honestly, this would be a little bit more fun to watch because it has a better group. I'm still trying to figure out how to make my test setup a little bit more consistent, but I will put the groups on the screen. So far, best group out of the rifle by far. 9 shot of the 10 was 0.952 MOA. I know I pulled that 10th shot, which opened it up to 1.452 MOA. So honestly, 9 shots into less than an MOA makes me very optimistic we're going to find a great load for this rifle. Keeping in mind, our target was at 100 yards, and the maximum magnification on this scope is 7, so not exactly being able to see the bullets as they impact as some of our higher magnification scopes that we like to shoot here on the channel. Let's get right into our load data. Like I said, quick load was estimated we start around 2857 feet per second. Very, very close at 59.6 grains. We hit 2863 feet per second. Didn't creep up too fast. We ended up maxing out at 62.3 grains, where quick load was estimating 2984 feet per second. We actually only hit 2964 feet per second. So assuming that 2974 was where we hit pressure, we actually did not exceed it today. Low at 61.4 grains, we were 1 foot per second off. So guys, if you've been sticking around here on the channel a while, you'll know for H4350 that the 215 is actually one of my more favorite primers to use, at least in 6.5 Creedmoor with H4350. I did want to give the BR2 a shot here, and if we're honestly looking for plateaus, I don't know that we can complain. It looks like we're shooting almost identical velocity, anywhere from 61.4 grains all the way to 62.3 grains. There is an extreme spread of 19, but that is 0.9 of a grain difference from top to bottom. One thing I neglected to mention earlier, looking at the bullet times in quick load, 1.035 milliseconds is actually the accuracy node we're trying to hit with our 22.5 inch barrel, at least that we're targeting, which was right at that 2974 feet per second number. We were supposed to hit that velocity basically at our max load before we hit pressure. Having that node being so large right up at that max pressure, it bears some investigation somewhere around, that 61.7 to 62 grain mark to see what kind of accuracy and standard deviations that we can get around those numbers. I'm certainly optimistic that we could find a good load. Let's look at the brass on the screen so we can look to see if any pressure signs. Going from top to bottom, you'll see the 59.6 grain all the way to 62.3 grain. Very little primer flattening here even at all. Certainly no cratering whatsoever of the primer. Overall, as far as pressure signs are concerned, I have no concern. These look absolutely fine, and I have no qualms being the pressure we're at, the velocity we're at, and certainly the best groups we've shot out of the rifles so far, and I think we're going to be able to do better. So under an MOA, looks like we've got a place to start loading with the BR2 and H4350. Overall, guys, the brass looks good, the numbers look good, the data looks pretty good. I don't know what else to complain about. If I was going to complain about anything, the only thing I was disappointed in, at 60.8 grains, we did see a velocity drop there to 2877 feet per second off of 2909. I don't know if that's a transition spot in the load, or if that's giving us a sign that the BR2 isn't as consistently igniting the powder as we'd hoped it was. Until we do some more testing, we'll have to see. But seeing that, even plateau all the way up there at the high end, I'm very optimistic that we're going to be able to find some consistency and accuracy up there. But as always, I'm interested to see what the community feedback has to say about today's load. Even if you're not reloading for 30-06, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Any comments or questions, make sure you put those in the comment section below. If you like what we do here on the channel, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon so you get notified when I post next week's video. I hope to see you back next week. And until then, stay safe in small groups.